I'm the architect of my own downfall.
This is Jackie of All Trades, a podcast that explores the multi-creative identity and the rise of the portfolio career among millennials and Gen Z in the creative industries. I'm Katura, a DJ, creative, strategist, CEO, and self-described Jackie of All Trades with a 10-year portfolio career spanning music, digital marketing, and cultural strategy. On this podcast, I speak to people who have also designed their own careers and are successfully juggling multiple creative pursuits to understand what it takes, what they've learned, and how you can do the same. This season, I'm joined by writer, content creator, podcaster, and author Tolly T, DJ, radio broadcaster, TV presenter, A&R, and music label owner Jamz Supernova, journalist, writer, strategist, and director Natty Kasambala, and DJ, writer, artist manager, music label owner, and cultural curator Elijah. Welcome back. This is episode 3 of the Jackie of All Trades podcast with me, Katura. Last episode, we spoke about the role of technology, mainly the internet, on the careers of our guests, as well as what connects the dots between all of their creative pursuits. Today, we're digging deep, talking mindset and making it all work. We'll be sharing biggest L's, imposter syndrome, juggling everything, and what keeps our multi-creatives on track and motivated.
Well, my biggest L, which I still do sometimes, I need to stop it, is that like I will take on bare work and then like recently I had started something and I was just so late on getting like, and I had to be like, I can't do it. And I still feel really awful about it.
Because
it was like, you should have just done it. It was probably like, it was right that I said, I'm sorry to let you down, but I'm going to stop
right
this. Yeah. I think a lot of my L's have just been like, I've been taking on too much. Or L's of just like applying for things and not getting it. Or being optimistic about something and it's just like not happening. Or like, I'm really like competitive. I think my biggest L is just, I don't have this feeling of I'm doing well.
Biggest L's I've taken. I don't think of the biggest L I've ever taken. Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of all the L's. I literally think about them constantly. The biggest L I've ever taken, or the most upsetting L I think for me in recent years was like a podcast that I really wanted to do that I didn't. I think they just went with someone else. Or like I got to the last stage of like the host kind of casting and either they went with a different production company or they just went with a different host entirely with the same production company. I can't remember how it worked out, but it was like such an opportunity and I just wanted it so badly. And I think when I saw that, like I realized how much I need to not lower my expectations, but just not have expectations of things because I deal with failure so badly. I just fixate on it and I'm just like, oh, but I really wanted that and it would have been this or I would just get really emotionally like kind of excited beforehand at different prospects. So that was a big old L.
Biggest L is not starting sooner. Okay. That is the like everything else is just ups and downs. The biggest L is like not believing in myself or trying things out sooner. As soon as I had the idea, just doing it. Because everything, let's just say everything happened in the way it happened, that would have happened 3 years earlier.
Right.
Because I wanted to do those things, but I was like, I'll get around to it and stalled and procrastinated and was in their head too much. And it might seem like, well, you got a lot done still.
Yeah.
But imagine if I was just doing it as in from when I was younger, as in when I was getting the ideas and not really, getting in my head about it, then I would have been a lot further along or a lot more done. I wouldn't necessarily be like any richer or more famous. It's not that. It's just I would have got a lot more projects done. And now I just try and take that attitude. Again, the dailies, like the squares are like that. It's like, well, there's one part of my like creativity that is just like daily and just thrown out there and just let it go. But then there's other ideas that I have that I move super slow on, which I need to like, that is the biggest L that I take all the time.
Are you affected by imposter syndrome?
I was for the longest time and I'm probably a little bit still am, but I feel like of recent I've been like, even if I'm a fraud, so what? Like, even if I don't deserve it, so what?
It's the best answer.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
so
even
far.
if I am, yeah, he's gonna beat me. Like, as in, so what?
Best answer. So, okay, in realistic terms, for someone who has imposter syndrome and don't have your perspective, like,
yeah. But that
how do you
has to be
navigate
that has to be the only way you navigate it, because there is no way to make yourself, because when you have imposter syndrome, you're aware of how hard you've worked. You're aware of your background. You're aware of what you studied. You're aware of what you read. You're aware of how you got here. You know your story. But yet you're in that space, you're still thinking like, I'm not deserving of this space, right? Yeah. And that's been my thing for the longest time. I feel like, especially if you're from a working class background, if you happen to be black, if you happen to be a woman, there's this need to be like, you feel like success only comes after struggle. And if you manage to get somewhere with that too much struggle, you're like, yo, this doesn't feel legit. So like, true. Because you're so used to be like, no, it had to be really, really hard. So you cannot, even though you know your stories, you still get there and still feel undeserving and still feel like you shouldn't be there. And the only way you can deal with that is to be like, okay, even if I'm not, so what? I'm here.
Yeah, like every minute of every day, pretty much. And like, it's getting more and more intense, I think. I think it gets more intense when you do something new, especially. And so directing at the moment is like a whole new mental battle for me. And I think it's interesting to kind of get back to that, because it's how I felt definitely when I was at a label, when I didn't know what a DSP was. And when I was like writing the first profile, like it's been that way. But I think there was a little stretch where perhaps I was comfortable and I was like not coasting, but like not necessarily growing rapidly. Okay. And now to be back in the stage of like researching things, like getting off the call and you're like, okay, I have 10 words I need to Google and like I need to look at all of this stuff. It's exhausting. Like it's actually very exhausting to doubt yourself every minute of every day.
DJing is the biggest imposter syndrome that I get. DJing is one of the things I find the hardest, the most enjoyable sometimes, and the most frustrating. Like, I don't think I'm a natural DJ. Like, I'm not.
Really?
No, I wouldn't class myself as a natural DJ.
Like, as a by definition, what's a natural DJ?
Like, a natural DJ, someone's like...
Yeah, but that just sounds like bells and whistles. But like,
but you know, like someone that naturally takes to it. Like I watch my partner Sam, you know, but he has, and then you have to rationalise, right?
Because
he's been DJing since he was. He's a producer. He has a musical ear anyway. He's been DJing since he was like 14 and spent all he did was spend hours on vinyl, hours, you know. So I'm trying to I was trying to cram in a lot in a very short space of time, and not having that foundational beginning. So I definitely kind of felt like I came up at it from the back end. So I don't think that I'm a natural DJ. Like, I feel like I'm a natural broadcaster. And I think it's taken time, but there's always been elements of me there's always been that little bit, if you listen closely, that talent there somewhere. You knew that it was going somewhere. You could see the potential. Whereas I think with the DJing, it's, the imposter syndrome comes down to, I mean, I didn't mix I never used to mix live on the radio up until I got the Six Music Show and they asked me, they said I have to.
You don't? Oh, what actually you didn't?
No, I never mixed live.
Oh.
No, didn't do it.
Why?
Just was too scared. Didn't like the feeling. Knees knock, start clanging, you know. And then with Six, you know, they were kind of like, well, we kind of expect you to DJ in this last half hour. Like, we'd probably like it if you did it live. Like, Giles does it live. Like, why don't you do it live? And I just thought now's the time.
Yeah.
And even in this last year of being on Six, like my DJing has come like such a far way because of mixing week in, week out. Because actually I was actually holding myself back by not mixing on air. I was holding myself back from becoming a better DJ. But the imposter syndrome comes because, like, you know, some of it is like, because you have good gigs and you have bad gigs.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had a bit of a shitty gig on the other day. It wasn't shit per se, but it wasn't a vibe. Okay. And I've had some really good gigs this summer, but this one was like a bit of a downer, and I didn't really know, I wasn't really getting like, it was a family festival, so I wasn't really kind of like getting the reaction that I would have got from certain songs other places, and that kind of like was deflating a little bit, and then like the crowd kind of ebbed and flowed, so you couldn't really catch them and find out, and then I'm like, are they leaving because they don't like the music? Like, you know, you're getting into your head and stuff like that, like, and then like at the last half hour, I knew I had to smash it because Annie Mac was on next, and then it's like, all these people. It's like, I've got 2 hours set. So now in the last half hour, and I just got to smash it out. So I just start running through like bangers by this point now, just like garage. Bangers in my way, like garage bangers or whatever. But like, and then I get home and it's kind of on to the next, but there's a part of me that's like, yeah, oh, that's fucking shit. Like, and then someone said to me the other day, oh yeah, I saw 10 minutes of your set at Stand and Calling. I'm thinking, why 10? why just 10?
Why you stayed for 2 hours?
Yeah.
Do you mean so only 10
so
was
only
good?
10, so 10 was bad? And I wanted
1
to.
hour
I had
50
to,
was
I had to
bad.
stop myself from being like, what did you
Just
do?
take the compliment
Yeah.
and leave
She
it.
didn't say that there was no compliment. She was just saying, I caught your set.
Right.
Like, she wasn't saying it in a bad way, she said, I caught your set.
Okay.
I was thinking, what 10 minutes? Which part? Was it? You know, like, was it the garage? Because at the end, I was just playing for the people. But like, just catch the beginning bit because I thought it was quite good. You know, like,
Yeah.
So like, the imposter syndrome comes from like, yeah, definitely like the DJ, and I get a lot of imposter syndrome.
How would you say, how do you balance and juggle everything that you're doing? Because on top of this, obviously, like motherhood is a new thing for you, and that beautiful baby needs a lot of time and attention. And you are, I think we're up to six lashes now, 5 maybe. How do you, balance and juggle?
What I do know is all plates can spin at the same time and things swing in roundabouts. There'll be a season for everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, so this is the season to DJ, season to be out there, be on the road, focus on the DJing. You know, the label has definitely taken a hit this summer. And I think probably the biggest hit, because I think back in the pandemic, which when the label took a whole sort of uplift.
Right.
I was sitting at home.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean? I was running a label for my living room. There's paper everywhere, you know, but it's different this summer. So, and it has bugs me a little bit. But then now I'm coming back. I've got a couple of weeks off and now the label's back up again. So you kind of got to be kind to yourself. That's what I think is really important. You know, now I'm going into the season of radio. I've got all these radio specials that I need to make. So the season of radio is now, you know, what I need to be focusing on. So everything kind of shifts and changes and mends and you know, molds. But it's about being very boundaried, I think. It's not easy to do, but I'm definitely getting better. Like, just had this conversation with my manager today. She was I could see an email chain about me and about an afternoon, and then trying to put something in this afternoon. I said, I don't want to do it. I actually don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I was like, can we just hold off filling the time with time things?
Yeah.
If you see a gap in the diary, I don't actually, because what I'm finding right now is that, okay, I'm very productive in getting the now done. I have no time for ideas.
Forward planning,
yeah, things, and I really, you know, for me to do the things that I want to do next, like I want to do a lot more TV, I want to develop TV show ideas, I really want to take my 6 show to a whole nother level. I need the time, I need the headspace, I need time to sit there and just brainstorm and research and think. And if you're always filling it with stuff, then you're never going to have that. And I think that's very short-sighted as well. Yeah. Like when I'm really trying to think about the next 10 years. So like now I'm not trying to fill, I need to be careful with filling the diary just because I've got a couple of weekends off. Don't you just fill it, you know, or fill the week. So if there's an afternoon off, let me go home and read a book. Do you know what I mean? Like that's okay. That's part of the work as well. So boundaries of your time, and relaying that to the people around you. Like, okay, someone said to me, can we have another meeting? No, sorry, no. I need to do.
We've had our meeting quote.
I need to do. Yeah. I'll talk to you on Tuesday. Okay. You know. So boundaried, communicating that with people, not being hard on yourself, knowing that sometimes like one thing's gonna take a hit, you know. And again, like it's seasonal, you know. So figuring out in the year where are the seasons to put things in place. Like even with the DJing, like obviously now's the season of summer, but like I'm looking at like placing tours outside of festival season, so we kind of do it more in a bit of a bulk or have more of a purpose. And that's it as well, purpose. Everything's got to have a purpose, you know, like, and that's more related to Forest, that my baby, like, what am I doing this for? You know, because if I'm away from her, then it needs to mean something. Do you know what I mean? If I'm doing this gig, is it well promoted? Or am I just going to play for X amount? You know, the money needs to either... I've got like a few things of like when things come in that I think about, like, is it going to fulfill my soul? Or my bank account or my profile, you know? And if it doesn't do any of those 3 things, then I need to really work out whether there's any point in me doing it, you know? And that's obviously a privilege. And that's because of the time of how long I've been doing things. I can assess it like that. And I've done my year of yeses. Yeah. And I'll do another year of yes, I'm sure, in another couple of years. Like there's always, you know, again, like it'll come back around. But yeah, that's you know, I think the motherhood thing, I mean, like where there is time, I think it's just really important. Take the time when it's there.
Is there an afternoon off? You know, looking at the diary, planning stuff in, say, I'm going to finish at 5 today so we can go and do something nice.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Or actually, I'm going to take this morning off. Like, so, because like summer, it's been hard, but, you know, the beginning of the year, I was able to take Tuesday morning off. Took every Tuesday morning off. But now, because it's summer, I'm trying to backdate the stuff that I'm losing on the week, the time that I'm losing on the weekend to get the work done. So I have like had to have a lot of like childcare. But again, we'll see. We'll have to reassess it in September.
How do you juggle everything?
It's really hard because I think even in terms of just like how you're at any given moment, what draws you in the most. Like, for example, if I'm working on something that I have to write, but I'm not like 100% or I'm finding it tricky, and then I get a call and it's like, oh, we got this track and the treatment's due in 3 days. Sometimes I think because it's that attention thing, I'll be like, I'll write the whole treatment before I've even done 500 words of the article that is due tomorrow, you know? Like, it can be really hard to like prioritize, especially when you're your own kind of boss. And I think it's just about like, in general, in terms of balancing, I think like it's a kind of a middle ground between that thing we were saying earlier of like balancing what you're doing financially first, like not first of all, but in the forefront, and then what feeds you like spiritually. And if that might be like, I'm going to write 4 treatments, I might not win any of them. Not that that's actually happened to me, but just to be clear, I have not lost any treatments just yet. But like you could write, you know, 4 treatments 1 week and not have pitched any articles. And then the next month it could be like, for example, I have written a couple of articles this year, but nothing super substantial. And then it's literally been in the last like 2 weeks, it's been like 3 covers. And then that will come out later and it won't even look like it was a burst, but like it can be completely uneven and like completely just kind of ebbing and flowing with what's coming in waves.
Yeah.
And like the different industries will kind of have different peaks and troughs and stuff that kind of dictate how my work flows. But the hardest part is definitely just kind of figuring out how to get enough from each and not like just like pass away because you're literally just doing too much.
How do you juggle your various creative pursuits? So podcasting, script writing, creating content, like how?
I would love to say, well, I'd love to be like, oh yeah, I get up at this time, I do this for a couple of hours. It's awful. I've not found a balance between work and life. My problem is, right, anytime I listen to loads of podcasts, like I said, and I listen to the podcasts about people I'm inspired by and I find aspirational, right? And a lot of writers talk about writing. When they talk about writing, they stop life.
Okay.
Like it's like they took 3 months out to just
Go
write
and live
all day, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
My issue is that I'm not willing to give up life.
Okay.
Which is why I haven't found a balance yet.
Right.
And because I think so much of my stories come from me living.
Okay.
So if I stop that, I don't know where anything comes from. Like I don't know, I don't have ideas, I don't know anything. But ultimately, I do need to sit down and get work done. So I'll have like spells of like a week of just like productiveness. Like I'm just going in, like I'm banging out emails, getting everything done. And then 3 months of just shit.
3 months. God.
And when I say shit, like I show up to everything I'm meant to be showing up to. Like it's not like I don't, like everything, every time every space I'm meant to be in, I'm there, I show up, I do my work, I do everything. But I find I don't know how to balance it. I don't know how people do it.
Is it based on deadlines then, or whatever's the most imminent, or?
Yeah, whatever's the most intimate. And I get so, because I care about my work so much, and I'll do something and I'm scared it's not good enough, and then I won't give it in because I'm scared of feedback and all things like that. Yeah, it's such like it's all like a mental thing.
So in terms of, you can't like not live life, but in terms of like having more time for things or being able to juggle things better, would you then want to drop any of the other things to have more time to focus on writing? Or do you feel like it's a necessity that you will do content and do the podcast and write like all at the same time? Like
No, I think like, because I'm not in so much of that, I'm not saying I'm not hustling, I'm definitely am. I'm not in so much of that hustling thing. There is a thing of, okay, the focus needs to be this and this. And my focus right now needs to be my writing.
Right. Okay.
Because that's like, genuinely, I love the podcast and that brings me so much joy. But outside of that, writing brings me so much joy. Like it genuinely makes me so happy. It's like every time I'm like, that's why I think I still don't feel like I've made it or I've done anything very well, because I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
Like, I could, like, not likely, I could win an award for, I don't know, some random shit. But because I haven't achieved that yet, I still feel like, I've not done it. I'm not good enough yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to feel content in my career until I've got a show on television.
Okay. That's your goal.
Yeah.
It's happening.
I need to write. It's me. I'm the architect of my own downfall.
The only day I try not to do anything is Sunday. Every other day is fair game. Pretty much. So, and a lot of things, like clubs, are only at night. So, okay, that's one easy thing. In the middle of, like Saturday in the morning, like club people or DJ people or agent people are generally not up. So I can do a lot of stuff that is not related to that in the first section of the day. So the balance is not that complicated. What used to kind of, like, where things would fall apart was travel, but now I don't travel as much.
Right.
So before I was traveling all the time, like doing, a good couple of times a month, sometimes 3 or 4 times a month taking. So like if you took 16 flights in a month, you lose so many hours. Whereas now I'm at home most of the time. So I could be like so much more, I wouldn't say productive, but I can get a lot more done. It's not even necessarily I'm being more productive. I don't have no commute. I work at home. All the stuff excites me. And I'm not wasting time. So that means I can just do a lot. So it reads like a lot of stuff, but it's rare that there's like massive conflicts.
How do you keep yourself motivated?
Doing the work, that's easy enough. I think that's what it is. And that's why I can do lots, because I just enjoy all of it. And I've learned to enjoy the bits that maybe other people won't do, because that's really the competitive advantage. It's like, okay, well, a lot of the people that I started out with, they were like, oh, I got into music, so I don't have to do all this other stuff. I'm like, well, who's going to do it then? You're either going to pay someone to do it, and that will cost you a lot of money, or you learn how to do it yourself or integrate into your daily routine. So like William Skilliam is good at that. He, he's an Excel wizard, and he can DJ, and he can produce, and he can do logistics, and he can get us all from A to B safely. That's like, if you have all of it, then it's obviously going to cost you a lot less to run, and you're going to have a firm grip on like what your operations are. And that's like been our surviving power. It's like running our company at very low cost, running the artist businesses at very, or low to no cost. As no cost as you can be running a company, pretty much.
Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, because I think it's like, if you are an ambitious person in general, I think that's when you can place too much weight on the kinds of goals that you set yourself and like the time span in which you actually achieve them. I think in general, like, I am ambitious in terms of like the standard of work that I want to put out. When I see people doing certain things, I'm like, I would like to do that, or like that's the level I would like to get at some stage. I think it's more in terms of like specifically naming them,
right,
and being like, here's my 10 goals for 2022, tick off this many followers on Instagram, or like this publication, and then you don't, and you're like, I failed, when in reality, maybe you wanted this publication, you got the exact equivalent, but you just hadn't thought of it, that sort of stuff. Okay. But I think in terms of motivation, I also think I'm motivated by like minute by minute, day by day, like if I enjoy things. And I think I enjoy things when they are new and they are challenging. And so that's the kind of more natural ambition that's like, okay, I've done that now, like the next time I do it, it might not feed me as much, so let's move on to the next thing. Or I've done it 5 times and now maybe I've got to reconfigure. But I don't think that I reconfigure in a intentionally upwards trajectory. It's more just like something else, and if it's better, then that's amazing. Probably not trying to go back, but like, if I can keep just growing and like learning new stuff and just feeling good about what I'm doing, then that's kind of how I try to set my goals.
What would you say keeps you on track or like focused and motivated on a daily basis?
My version of success.
Okay.
My version of success, money. Never gonna lie about that. Money, my version of success. And like, I love the idea of being that girl that did it, right? Like, I like that. And that's not even for anybody else to call me that girl that did it. That's for me to know that, like, yo, like, I know all the thoughts that go on in my head. I know how I was younger and was like, oh my God, that'd be so cool. I know the dreams that felt so far away from me. I know all of these things. And for me to sit by myself and be like, yo, like you did it. And I have them like sparingly. Like when it was hot, I was sitting in my garden. I was like, you're in your garden of house you bought yourself. And it's a Tuesday and you don't have to be anywhere. You can just sit here and drink and just chill and just read a book. Yeah. And that's the life you've given yourself. And I like that. I can think that of myself.
I appreciate how honest everyone was on this episode, because it's rare to hear people talk about the constant push and pull and what it really takes mentally to be quote unquote successful. What I've learned over time as someone with a portfolio career is, for me, success is being able to indulge in all of my creative pursuits, even if it means I'll never be considered world-class at any one of them. So my ongoing challenge is figuring out how to work on them all week to week, month to month. I'll be back next week with the final episode of season 1, and we'll be talking advice to our younger selves and lessons learned. If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at J.O.A.T Podcast UK for extra content. And if you ever want to switch it up, you can always listen to these episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.